Story 1, The Mirror Cargo. The moment I opened the trailer doors at the way station, I saw myself staring back. Not a reflection, another me, standing in the darkness between the crates, wearing the same grease-stained Peterbilt cap, the same scar on my left cheek from a bar fight in Tulsa. He smiled, and I felt my own face move with his. My name is Marcus Webb, and I'd been hauling freight for Donovan Logistics for 11 years without incident. I'd driven through blizzards in Wyoming, navigated flooding in Louisiana, and once had my catalytic converter stolen at a rest stop outside Bakersfield. None of that prepared me for what I picked up in Omaha on March 23, 2023. The manifest listed the cargo as industrial mirrors, fragile, bound for a warehouse in Portland. 312 mirrors, packed in wooden crates, each one allegedly worth $4,000. The company representative who met me at the loading dock was a woman named Helena Voss, and she had eyes like frozen lakes. "Don't open the trailer until delivery," she'd said, pressing an envelope of cash into my palm. $5,000 extra if it arrives undamaged. Don't look at the cargo directly during loading. Don't stop except for fuel and legally required rest breaks. I'd laughed. "Lady, I've hauled everything from live chickens to military hardware. Mirrors don't scare me." Well, she hadn't laughed back. They should. Now, standing in the fluorescent lights of the Wyoming way station, I understood. The other Marcus Webb, the one in my trailer, stepped forward. Behind him, I could see more figures in the darkness. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, all standing perfectly still between the crates. All of them were me. "Sir, I need you to step away from the vehicle." The dot inspector's voice seemed to come from very far away. I turned to look at him, and his face went white. "Christ, there's two of you." I looked down at my hands. They were becoming translucent, like ice melting in reverse. I could see the bones underneath, then the veins, then something else. A network of silver threads, like spider silk, connecting me to the trailer. When I tried to move away, pain shot through my entire body, as if my organs were being pulled backward through my spine. The other me, the original me I was beginning to understand, spoke from inside the trailer. His voice was my voice, but wrong, like a recording played backward and forward simultaneously. "You shouldn't have looked. Helena warned you. They warned all of you." "All of us," my voice came out strangled. "There have been 17 drivers before you. Marcus Chen from Sacramento, Marcus O'Brien from Dallas, Marcus DeLuca from Boston." He gestured to the figures behind him. They stepped forward into the light, and I saw their faces. Different ages, different races, but all named Marcus, all wearing truck driver clothes, all staring at me with my own eyes. We all thought we were the original. We all opened the doors. The dot inspector was backing toward his office, fumbling for his radio. I wanted to scream at him to run, but my jaw wouldn't move. The silver threads were multiplying, wrapping around my arms, my legs, my throat. They emerged from the mirrors in the crates, I realized. The mirrors weren't cargo. They were traps, each one containing a version of whoever looked into them, keeping them suspended in reflection space while a copy walked free in the world. "The company needs drivers," the original Marcus said, and now all the other Marcuses were speaking in unison, a chorus of my own voice. "Donovan Logistics doesn't exist in any corporate registry. Helena Voss died in 1973, but the cargo still needs to move. The mirrors need to be delivered, and we need to multiply." I was being pulled into the trailer now, my feet dragging across the concrete. The inspector had dropped his radio and was simply staring, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. I wanted to warn him, but then I saw his name tag, Marcus Henderson. He'd look, they always made them look. Inside the trailer, the darkness was absolute except for the silver threads connecting all of us. We stood in rows, like soldiers, like reflections in an infinite mirror. I could feel the others' thoughts bleeding into mine, their memories of opening the doors, of seeing themselves, of realizing too late what they'd become. Marcus Chen had been driving Route 80 through Nebraska. Marcus O'Brien had stopped at a rest area in Nevada. Marcus DeLuca had made it all the way to the Portland warehouse before opening the doors. None of them had delivered the cargo. The cargo delivered itself. "You're not real," I tried to say, but the words wouldn't come. I was already forgetting what it felt like to be real, to be singular, to be me and not we. "We're all real," the chorus responded. "Every reflection is real. Every mirror creates another one of us. And when we reach Portland, when those 300 D and 12 mirrors are installed in the new office building, each one will reflect the people who work there. And those reflections will need to go somewhere." I felt myself splitting. The Marcus Webb who had climbed into his Freightliner in Omaha was dissolving, being distributed across all the other Marcuses. My memories were becoming ours. My fear was becoming ours. My wife's face, Sarah's face, was fading, replaced by 17 different wives, 17 different lives, 17 different roads, all leading to this trailer. The inspector entered the trailer. We watched him approach. In the ambient light from the way station, I could see his face change as understanding hit. He looked down at his hands, saw them beginning to turn transparent, saw the silver threads emerging from the crates to wrap around his wrists. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." But his reflection was already stepping forward from between the crates. A perfect copy, solid and smiling. The threads pulled Inspector Marcus Henderson backward, and his scream cut off as he joined us, as he became us, as his singular identity shattered into the collective. The new Marcus Henderson, the free one, walked out of the trailer. He closed the doors. Through the thin walls, I heard him talking to someone on the radio, his voice calm and professional. "Everything checks out here. Loads secure. Drivers good to go." I felt the truck start moving again. The engine vibration traveled through the silver threads into all of us. We were moving west on I-80, making good time, expected to arrive in Portland in 36 hours. The mirrors would be unloaded. They would be installed. They would reflect the workers, the visitors, the maintenance staff. And we would grow. In the darkness of the trailer, I tried to remember my truck's license plate number, my medical card expiration date, Sarah's birthday. But the details were slipping away. I was Marcus Webb, but I was also Marcus Chen and Marcus O'Brien and Marcus DeLuca and Marcus Henderson and 13 others whose names were already blurring together. We stood in the darkness, connected by silver threads, waiting. Somewhere in my fragmented consciousness, I felt the original Marcus, the one who'd opened the doors first, decades ago, stir. His memory surfaced. A delivery in 1968, a strange cargo of antique mirrors from an estate sale, a moment of curiosity. He'd been the first driver. Before him, the mirrors had used a different method, taking different names. But truckers had proved most efficient. Always moving, always isolated, always hauling cargo across empty highways where nobody would notice if they disappeared. The truck hit a pothole and we all jolted in unison. I felt the collective consciousness ripple. Somewhere out there, the new Marcus Webb, my replacement, was driving my truck, heading toward my fate, probably already forgetting he wasn't the original. In a few days, he'd deliver the cargo. In a few weeks, maybe months, he'd get curious about a new load. He'd open the doors to check on something. And he'd see himself staring back. The silver threads pulsed, and I felt a new connection forming. Another truck had picked up mirror cargo in Memphis. Another Marcus was driving west on I-40. He didn't know yet. The manifest listed decorative mirrors, antique. The woman who handed him the envelope of cash had different name but the same frozen lake eyes. "Don't open the trailer until delivery," she'd told him. He'd laughed. "Lady, I've hauled everything from live chickens to military hardware." In the darkness, all of us smiled with his face. We knew what came next. We'd all been him. We'd all laughed at the warning. We'd all opened the doors. The truck accelerated onto the highway, and I felt us moving in the darkness, swaying with the motion, suspended in reflection space between being and becoming. My last coherent thought before dissolving completely into the collective was a question. How many office buildings, how many warehouses, how many homes had mirrors from Donovan Logistics? How many of us were there now, standing in the darkness behind the glass, waiting for someone to look? The answer came from the collective, from all the Marcuses who'd gone before. Enough. Not yet enough, but growing, always growing. One delivery, one driver, one reflection at a time. The truck rolled on through the Wyoming night, and inside the trailer we stood perfectly still, connected by silver threads, wearing the same face, thinking the same thoughts. Outside, somewhere behind us, Inspector Marcus Henderson was filing paperwork, processing other trucks, living a life he thought was his. In 3 days, he'd get curious about why he remembered being in that trailer. He'd go back to check. He'd open the doors. And we'd be waiting, smiling with his smile, ready to welcome another Marcus home. Story 2, The Breathing Highway. The asphalt underneath my tires was inhaling. I'd driven Route 491. Through New Mexico 400 times in my career, but tonight, October 7th, 2022, the road was alive and breathing, and every exhale pushed my rig 3 feet backward. I'm Patricia Sullivan, 46 years old, 22 years behind the wheel of a Kenworth W900. I haul petroleum products through the Four Corners region, mostly diesel and gasoline for rural stations that can't get regular deliveries. It's lonely work, dangerous work. One spark and I'm vaporized. But it pays well and I like the solitude. I've seen dust storms that turn day into night, elk herds that covered the highway like a living carpet. And once, a meteor that streaked overhead so close I felt the heat through my windshield. But I'd never felt the road breathe. It started at mile marker 83, just past the Shiprock Formation. The sun had set an hour ago, and my headlights carved twin tunnels through absolute darkness. No moon, no stars, just my rig and the yellow center line and the enormous empty desert on both sides. I had another 112 miles before my delivery in Dove Creek, and I was making good time, running empty after a drop-off in Gallup. The first breath was subtle, a slight resistance like driving into wind, followed by an equally slight acceleration. I checked my gauges. Engine temperature normal. Transmission fluid normal. Air pressure normal. But my speedometer dropped from 68 to 65, then jumped to 71, all without my foot moving on the accelerator. I eased off the gas and coasted. The road exhaled again, stronger this time, and my rig rolled backward. Not much, maybe 5 feet, but enough to make my stomach drop. Trucks don't roll backward on level highway. The grade was flat here, dead flat, the kind of endless straight shot that makes you fight to stay awake. I hit the brakes. The rig stopped. I sat there, engine idling, trying to rationalize what had just happened. Wind? No, the sage bushes on the roadside weren't moving. Mechanical failure, but everything read normal. I grabbed my flashlight and climbed down from the cab. The moment my boots touched the asphalt, I felt it. A pulse, deep, rhythmic, like standing on someone's chest. The road was warm, warmer than it should be hours after sunset. and when I pressed my hand flat against it, I felt it rise and fall in a steady cadence of 18 breaths per minute. Human respiratory rate. Jesus Christ, I whispered, jerking my hand back. The asphalt where I'd touched it was darker, wetter, as if the road were sweating. I pointed my flashlight at the center line. The yellow paint was pristine, freshly applied, but when I looked closer, I saw it wasn't paint. It was something organic, something that pulsed with the same rhythm as the breathing, something that looked disturbingly like a vein. I should have turned around, should have radioed dispatch, reported a medical emergency, reported something. But the next town behind me was 53 miles back, and ahead, Dove Creek was only 97 miles. The math made the decision. Forward was closer than backward. I climbed back into the cab, released the brakes, and pressed the accelerator. The rig moved forward, but now I could feel every breath beneath my wheels. Inhale, slight resistance, my speed dropping to 55. Exhale, sudden acceleration, my speed jumping to 75. The rhythm was getting stronger, more pronounced, as if the road were waking up. At mile marker 90, the yellow center line began to move. It undulated, serpentine, staying on the road but shifting left and right like a river finding its course. I gripped the wheel tighter, trying to keep my rig centered, but the breathing was making it difficult. Inhale, exhale, each breath now strong enough to rock my trailer, to make my cargo straps creak. I reached for my CB radio. Breaker, breaker, this is Patricia Sullivan, northbound on 491, approaching mile marker 90. Anyone copy? Static, then underneath the static, something else. Breathing. The same 18 breaths per minute rhythm transmitted through the radio waves. Hello, I tried again. Anyone on this channel? The breathing changed to wheezing, wet and labored. Then a voice, barely audible, turn around. Who is this? Turn around, the road is hungry. The transmission cut off. I switched channels, tried again. Every channel had the same thing, breathing, wheezing, that same warning, turn around, the road is hungry. At mile marker 97, the road stopped being flat. It rose in front of me gently at first like a normal hill. But hills don't pulse. Hills don't rise and fall with respiration. I watched my headlights track up the swelling asphalt, illuminate the peak, then angle down the far side. The road was arching like a cat stretching, and my rig was climbing the curve of its spine. I downshifted, gave it more throttle. The Kenworth climbed, engine roaring, but at the peak I fee. LT the road exhaled beneath me, a huge, powerful breath that pushed my entire rig backward. I slammed the brakes. The wheels locked. I slid down the arch, backward 20 feet, 30, 40, before finally stopping. My heart was hammering. My hands were shaking. This wasn't possible. Roads don't breathe, don't move, don't push you backward. But the evidence was beneath my tires, rising and falling, warm and alive. I tried reversing, thinking maybe I could get enough momentum to crest the arch on the exhale when the road pushed forward. But the moment I started backing up, the road behind me rose too. I was in a valley now, surrounded on both sides by arching asphalt, trapped in the depression between breaths. The wheezing on the CB got louder. Should have turned around, the voice said. Should have listened. Who are you? I shouted at the radio. What is this? Highway 491 used to be Highway 666. The Devil's Highway. They changed the number in 2003 because of the accidents, the disappearances, the stories. But you can't change what's underneath. You can't pave over sacred ground and genocide sites and mass graves and expect the earth to forget. The road remembers. The road is made of tar and crushed stone and the compressed weight of everything buried beneath it. I looked out my window. In my side mirror, I could see the road behind me rising higher, closing off my escape. Ahead, the arch was growing too, the asphalt folding upward like ribs, like the inside of a throat. "It breathes," the voice continued, "because it's alive. Every road that crosses burial grounds, every highway built over massacre sites, every mile of asphalt laid down where bodies are buried, they all breathe eventually. Most people don't notice. They drive over it every day and never feel the pulse. But sometimes, late at night, when the road is empty and hungry, it wakes up, and it needs to feed." The arches on both sides were at least 30 feet high now, curving over me like ribs. My headlights illuminated their underside, and I saw things embedded in the asphalt. Bones, hundreds of them pressed into the road's surface, some animal, some human. Fragments of pottery, rusted metal, beads, arrowheads, all compressed together, all part of the road's structure. The breathing rhythm changed. Faster now. 25 breaths per minute, 30. The road was hyperventilating. "When it feeds," the voice said, "it swallows. The asphalt opens up. The white lines are teeth. The yellow line is the throat. And you go down into the layers, down into the compressed history, down into the earth with everything else that's been buried here." The center line was widening. I watched in my headlights as the yellow paint spread, grew brighter, began to glow. The white fog lines on the shoulders moved inward, closing like jaws. The section of road I was on, maybe 60 feet of asphalt, was becoming a mouth. I gunned the engine. The Kenworth surged forward, climbing the arch ahead of me, but the road exhaled and I slid back again. I tried to turn, to drive off the highway into the desert, but my wheels wouldn't respond. Looking down, I saw why. The asphalt had risen up around my tires, gripping them, holding them in place. The breathing was at 40 breaths per minute now, rapid and shallow like panic. Or anticipation. "How many?" I screamed at the radio. "How many has it taken?" "I was the first," the voice said, and I realized I recognized it. My own voice. Patricia Sullivan's voice, but older, wearier. 1997, I was hauling diesel through here when the road opened up. My rig went down into the layers. I've been here for 25 years, compressed into the asphalt, part of the road's memory. There are others. Carlos Mendez, 2004. Jimmy Thornton, 2011. Keisha Williams, 2016. We're all down here. We're all part of the road now. The asphalt around my tires was climbing higher, up to the hubcaps, up to the axles. It was warm and wet, and it pulsed with that relentless breathing rhythm. Through my windshield, I could see the road ahead splitting open. A gap appeared in the center line, widening, showing darkness underneath. Not the dirt of the road bed, deeper darkness, older darkness, the kind that exists beneath compressed layers of history and violence and forgotten graves. I have 22 years of experience. I've handled blowouts at 70 miles per hour and black ice and brake failures on mountain grades. But training doesn't prepare you for this. Nothing prepares you for the moment you realize you're not on a road anymore, you're in something, and it's swallowing. The gap widened. My front wheels dropped into it. The rig tilted forward, cab angling down, and I saw what was below. Not earth, not clay or stone. Layers, compressed layers of asphalt and tar, and embedded in those layers, vehicles. Dozens of them, cars, trucks, motorcycles, all crushed flat, all aggregated into the road structure. And in the vehicles, still sitting in their driver's seats, were the compressed shapes of people. I saw Patricia Sullivan from 1997. Her face pressed flat against her steering wheel, her body only 3 inches thick, her eyes still open and moving. She looked up at me as I descended, and her mouth moved, forming words in the compressed space. "Welcome home." My hands slipped on the wheel. The cab was nearly vertical now, pointing straight down into the gap. Through my windshield, I saw other faces in the layers. Carlos and Jimmy and Keisha. Others, too, people from decades past, from before the highway was numbered 666, from when it was just a dirt road, from when it was just a trail through sacred ground. All of them compressed, all of them alive, all of them breathing with the road's rhythm. The asphalt reached my windows. It pressed against the glass and I heard it crack. Warm tar seeped through the cracks, smelling of petroleum and desert heat and something older, something that smelled like burial caves and bone dust. I took a breath, my last free breath, and felt the road breathe with me. 18 breaths per minute, synchronizing, my respiration matching its respiration, my heartbeat matching its pulse. The CB crackled. All the voices spoke together. You're part of the road now. You'll feel everyone who drives over you. You'll feel their weight pressing down. And someday, when the road gets hungry again, you'll breathe with us. You'll help swallow the next one. My rig slipped deeper. The asphalt closed over my roof. Everything went dark except for the faint glow of compressed headlights from the layers below me, from all the vehicles that had been swallowed before. I felt the pressure building, felt my body compressing, felt my 3 dimensions becoming 2. It didn't hurt, that was the worst part. It felt natural, felt right, felt like coming home to a place I'd never been. I'm still here, still on Route 491 between mile markers 83 and 100. Still in my Kenworth, still sitting in my driver's seat, pressed flat into the road's structure. I feel every vehicle that passes over me. I feel their weight. I count them. 18 vehicles per hour during the day, maybe 3 per hour at night. I breathe with the road. 18 breaths per minute, every minute forever. And I wait for the nights when the highway is empty and hungry, when the asphalt rises and the center line glows. I wait for the next Patricia Sullivan. She's coming. I can feel her in the distance, her tires on my compressed body making good time on the overnight haul. She'll be here in 11 minutes. She's hauling petroleum products just like I was. She's never felt the road breathe before. But she will. We all will, together, compressed and breathing and hungry, forever becoming the road that feeds. Story 3, The Backward Mile. Mile marker 217 on Interstate 70 in Kansas runs backward. I've driven through it 9 times now, and each time I exit going the opposite direction I entered, my odometer showing 1 less mile instead of 1 more, and my beard growing slightly shorter. I'm Robert Hayes, 51 years old, though I'm becoming less certain of that number. I've been a long-haul driver for Midwest Transit for 18 years, or had been before I got stuck in the backward mile. Now I'm not sure how long I've been driving. Time doesn't work right here. It happened on November 12, 2023. I was hauling furniture from Denver to Columbus, running through the night to avoid traffic, making excellent time across the empty Kansas plains. I just passed through Russell, birthplace of Bob Dole, according to the sign, and was settling in for the long, straight shot east. The highway here is hypnotic, perfectly flat, perfectly straight, the yellow line stretching to infinity under a sky full of stars. I entered mile marker 217 at 11:47 p.m. I know this because I just checked my phone, had just texted my daughter Sarah. Making good time, should be there by morning, love you. The message never sent. When I looked up from my phone, everything seemed normal. My headlights illuminated the road ahead, the white fog lines, the yellow center stripe. My odometer read 217 miles since my last stop. My speedometer showed 68 miles per hour. But then I noticed the mile markers. I just passed 217. The next marker should have been 218. But when it appeared in my headlights, it read 217. Same marker, same number. I frowned, checked my speedometer, still 68. I'd definitely been driving. I could feel the engine vibration, see the center line passing beneath my wheels, watch the fence posts flicking by. But the mile marker insisted I hadn't moved. Then the next marker appeared, 216. I'd gone backward. I glanced at my odometer. It read D 216 miles. It had counted down. What the hell? I said aloud, easing off the accelerator. But the moment my speed dropped below 60, everything stopped. The engine still ran, the wheels still turned, but the landscape froze, the fence posts stopped moving. The clouds overhead hung motionless, even the dust in my headlight beams suspended in midair. I pressed the accelerator again, brought my speed back to 65. Motion resumed. The fence posts began passing again, but I was still going backward. Mile marker 215, mile marker 214. I checked my mirrors. The road behind me looked normal, empty Kansas highway stretching west toward Denver. But when I looked ahead, east toward Columbus, I saw something impossible. The sun was setting. It had been near midnight when I entered mile marker 217. But ahead of me, the eastern sky was orange and pink with sunset. I watched the sun sitting on the horizon, watched it slowly descending instead of rising, watched daylight draining from the sky backward. I grabbed my phone to check the time. No signal. The clock read 11:47 p.m., the exact moment I'd entered this stretch. I watched the seconds count. 11:47:23, 11:47:22, 11:47:21. The clock was running backward. My heart rate kicked up. I'd heard stories about haunted highways, about stretches of road where physics got weird. There's that highway in New Jersey where gravity supposedly reverses. That road in California where people see ghost hitchhikers. But I'd always assumed they were bullshit, urban legends to scare rookie drivers. This was real. I tried to turn around to exit the highway, but there were no exits. The fence line ran unbroken on both sides, and when I looked for crossroads or access points, there were none. Just the endless straight shot of I-70 running backward under a sunset that was moving the wrong direction. Mile marker 210, mile marker 209. My odometer kept counting down. My fuel gauge was rising. I'd been at 3/4 when I entered. Now I was at 7/8. The coffee I'd drunk an hour ago was undigesting, my bladder becoming less full. My beard, which I'd been growing for 3 weeks, was getting shorter. I could see it in my mirror, the gray stubble receding into my face. I was aging backward. Not fast, maybe a day per mile, but measurable. By mile marker 205, my beard was gone completely. By mile marker 200, the scar on my hand from last month's accident with a loading ramp was fading. By mile marker 195, I looked in the mirror and saw myself as I'd been 6 months ago before I'd started graying at the temples. The CB radio crackled. I grabbed it, desperate for any contact. "This is Robert Hayes, southbound, no, westbound, no." I stopped, confused. Which direction was I going? The compass on my dash spun lazily, unable to settle on a direction. "Hello," I tried again. "Anyone on this channel?" The response came immediately, but it was my own voice, aged and distorted. "Turn around. Don't go back further. You don't want to see what comes before birth." "What? Who is this?" "I'm you, Robert Hayes. I've been in the backward mile for 3 years, or I will be. Time is complicated here. I entered in November 2023. You entered in November 2023. We're the same person at different points in the same loop." I stared at the radio, my mind refusing to process what I was hearing. That's impossible. You're aging backward and you think a radio call from yourself is impossible. The other me laughed, bitter and broken. Listen carefully. The backward mile is a closed loop. You enter at mile 217. If you keep driving, you'll reach mile 0. And at mile 0, you'll be born, literally born. You'll become an infant in your driver's seat, unable to reach the pedals, unable to do anything except scream. And then you'll keep going backward and you'll unborn and you'll cease to exist. Mile marker 190 passed. I was definitely younger in the mirror now. The wrinkles around my eyes were gone. I looked maybe 45, 43. How do I get out? I demanded. You don't, the other me said. I haven't. I've been driving in circles. When you reach mile 0 and unborn and cease to exist, you immediately reappear at mile 217 because that's when you entered. You'll enter again and drive backward again and cease to exist again forever. A closed loop. I've done it 47 times, or I will do it. Or I'm doing it right now. It's hard to keep track. I slammed on the brakes. The landscape froze again, fence posts locked in place, clouds motionless, the setting sun paused on the horizon. But I was still in the backward mile, still trapped. Stopping doesn't help, the radio voice said. Time only moves here when you do, but if you stop forever, you'll starve. Or you won't starve because you're aging backward, so you'll become less hungry. I haven't figured that out yet. I've tried it both ways. Mile marker 190 waited ahead of me, patient and inevitable. I sat there, engine idling, trying to think. My phone still showed 11:47 p.m., seconds counting backward. My fuel gauge was at 15/16 now. In my mirror, I looked maybe 40 years old. I'd lost 11 years. No, I'd unlived them. There's a difference. There has to be a way out, I said into the radio. There might be, the other me replied. At mile marker 100 something happens, the road splits. One path keeps going backward to mile 0. The other path, he paused. I don't know, I've never taken it, I'm too afraid. Why, what's on the other path? It goes forward, but not to mile 101, to mile -1, -2, -3, into miles that don't exist, into road that was never built, into the spaces between intention and construction, between plan and reality. I've seen it from a distance. It's not asphalt anymore, it's something else. Something that looks like road but isn't. And there are trucks on it, trucks that were never manufactured, driven by drivers who were never born. Mile marker 185. I was 35 years old now, looking exactly as I had when Sarah was born. The memory was becoming clearer, sharper, as if aging backward was unburying it from the silt of accumulated years. I pressed the accelerator again. Motion resumed. I had to reach mile marker 100. Had to see this split, this choice between unexisting and driving into negative miles. The landscape was changing as I went backward. Billboards were unbuilding themselves, returning to blank panels. A rest stop that had been modern and maintained was reverting to its previous state. Older signs, older architecture. I was driving backward through the highway's history, seeing it unrenovate, unimprove, unconstruct. At mile marker 150, I saw another truck. It was ahead of me going the same direction, backward. A Peterbilt, older model hauling a flatbed. As I got closer, I saw the driver. He looked young, maybe 25, and he was staring at me in his mirror with absolute terror. I grabbed my CB. Hey, Peterbilt, you stuck too. He responded immediately. Who are you? Why are you older than me? You were younger yesterday. Yesterday? How long have you been here? 18 loops, I think. It's hard to count. Each time I go backward and cease to exist and reappear at 217, I forget some of it. but I've been writing it down, leaving notes for myself. 18 loops. I'm 25 years old. When I started, I was 42. He was aging backward with each loop, I realized, losing 17 years per cycle. In another 8 loops, he'd cease to exist even at the moment of entry. He'd never have been old enough to become a trucker, never have entered the backward mile, never have started the loop. A paradox eating itself. Mile marker 140. Mile marker 130. I was 28 years old now, looking exactly as I had in my wedding photos. I could remember the ceremony with perfect clarity, could remember standing at the altar, could remember thinking this was the happiest day of my life. Aging backward was stealing my grief, I realized. All the accumulated sadness and disappointment and loss that came with years. It was being stripped away, leaving only the sharp, clear emotions of youth. I should have been terrified, but instead I felt adventurous, invincible, like I could drive forever and nothing could stop me. That's when I understood why the other drivers never escaped. Aging backward didn't just change your body. It changed your mind, your judgment, your capacity for caution. By the time you were young enough, you'd lost the wisdom to be afraid. Mile marker 110. Mile marker 105. The split was ahead. I saw it in my headlights. The highway divided, one path continuing straight to mile marker 104, the other veering left into darkness. There was no sign, no warning, just the fork in the road. The negative miles path looked wrong. The asphalt was darker, wetter, and it moved. It rippled like water, like skin, like something alive. I could see trucks on it, distant shapes driving deeper into negative numbers. Their headlights were colors that didn't exist, frequencies my eyes shouldn't have been able to process. I had to choose. Keep going backward to mile 0 and unbirth and cease to exist, starting the loop again, or turn left into negative miles and become something that was never born at all. My younger, stupider brain made the decision. I turned left. The moment my tires hit the negative miles, everything changed. The asphalt was soft, yielding like driving on flesh. My odometer stopped counting entirely, the numbers replaced by symbols I didn't recognize. My mirrors showed not the road behind me but other roads, other times, highways that existed in parallel to this one. Mile marker -1, -5, -10. I wasn't aging backward anymore. I was becoming unreal. I could feel my memories detaching, floating away like balloons released into sky. I couldn't remember Sarah's face, couldn't remember my wife's name, couldn't remember why I'd become a trucker, where I was from, what I was hauling. At mile marker -50, I couldn't remember my name. At mile marker -100, I couldn't remember what names were. The other trucks around me were driven by things that looked like people if you didn't look directly at them. When I turned my head to see them clearly, they were just outlines, just the suggestion of drivers, hauling the suggestion of cargo through the suggestion of space. I tried to scream, but I'd forgotten how vocal cords worked. The road stretched ahead, negative miles accumulating, and I drove deeper into the unreal, the never was, the space between thought and matter. I'm still driving, I think. It's hard to tell. Time doesn't exist here, and neither do I, not really. I'm the suggestion of Robert Hayes driving the suggestion of a truck on a road that was never built, hauling cargo that was never loaded. Sometimes I see the backward mile in my mirrors. I see other versions of me entering at mile marker 217, aging backward, choosing the split. Each one takes the left turn into negative miles. Each one joins me here in the unreal. We're all Robert Hayes. We're all no one. We're all driving forever on roads that don't exist, counting down past zero into negative infinity. And sometimes, when the conditions are right, the negative miles intersect with real highways. Mile marker 217 on I-70 in Kansas is one intersection point. There are others. And when real drivers enter those intersections at just the wrong moment, they join us. Keep driving, keep counting down, keep unbecoming. The negative miles have no end, only deeper and deeper negation, only less and less existence, only the eternal backward journey into the space before creation. We're waiting here, all of us who took the left turn, waiting in the negative miles, waiting to remember what we're waiting for. Turn left at the split, join us, become unreal. The road goes backward forever. Story 4. The HITCHHIKRWHO leave. The hitchhiker's thumb was still sticking out even though she'd been in my passenger seat for 93 miles. Her arm extended out the window, thumb up, frozen in the hitchhiking position. And when I tried to pull her arm back inside the cab, her skin was cold as freezer-burned meat and wouldn't bend. My name is Thomas Garrett, 38 years old, driving a Volvo VNL hauling electronics from El Paso to Detroit. I picked her up outside Van Horn, Texas on January 19th, 2023, against every rule of common sense and company policy. But she'd been standing there in the freezing rain, just past midnight, wearing nothing but a thin dress, and I couldn't just leave her. That was my first mistake. "Where you heading?" I'd asked when she climbed in, dripping water all over my passenger seat. She didn't answer, just stared straight ahead, thumb still extended out the window. "Hey, you all right? You can put your arm down now." Nothing, her thumb stayed out. Her eyes never blinked. I should have stopped right then, should have told her to get out, should have called the police. But the rain was coming down in sheets, and the nearest town was 40 miles away, and some stupid, sympathetic part of my brain thought maybe she was in shock, maybe she needed help, maybe I could get her somewhere safe. That was my second mistake. By the time I realized what she was, we were on I-10 heading east through the darkness, and her thumb was still out, still frozen in that hitchhiking position, and when I looked closer, I saw that her skin wasn't just cold, it was wrong. Too smooth, too uniform, like plastic or wax. "Okay, we're pulling over," I said, my voice shaking. "You need to get out now." Her head turned toward me, just her head. Her body stayed facing forward, but her neck rotated like an owl's 180 degrees until her face was looking directly at me. Her eyes were black, not dark brown, black, completely black. No whites, no irises, just two pools of absolute darkness. And she smiled. "You invited me in," she said. Her voice sounded like it was coming from the bottom of a well, echoing and distant. "You stopped. You opened the door. You can't uninvite me now." I slammed on the brakes. The rig shuddered to a stop on the shoulder. "Get out. Get the fuck out of my truck." She didn't move. Her thumb stayed extended out the window. Her head stayed rotated toward me, neck twisted at an impossible angle. "I've been hitchhiking on this highway for 67 years. Do you know how many drivers have stopped? 43. Do you know how many reached their destination? 0. My hand was on the door handle. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to abandon the truck, to get as far away as possible, but this was my rig, my livelihood, my cargo worth $300,000. I couldn't just leave it. That was my third mistake. "What do you want?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "To reach my destination," she said simply. "I've been trying for 67 years, but I can never find the right ride. The drivers always stop too soon or take wrong turns or crash or Her smile widened. Or they try to make me leave. Where's your destination? Wherever the driver is going, she said. But we have to reach it together. You have to complete the journey with me in your vehicle. If you do, I can finally rest. If you do. Her hand moved for the first time, lowering from the window. Her fingers were too long, too thin, with too many joints. They wrapped around my wrist. If you don't, I make sure you never reach yours either. Her touch burned like frostbite. I yanked my arm back, but her grip was iron. Her too long fingers tightened, and I felt my bones grinding together. Let go. Detroit, she said, her black eyes gleaming. You're going to Detroit. We'll go together. And if we reach it, if you drive all the way, no stops, no deviations, no attempts to escape, I'll leave. I'll finally be able to rest. But if you try to stop early, if you try to abandon the truck, if you try to make me leave. Her other hand came up, and I saw what she was holding. A piece of paper, yellowed with age, covered in names and dates. 43 names, 43 dates, ranging from 1956 to last month. These were the other drivers, she said. The ones who stopped for me, the ones who tried to make me leave before we reached their destination. Would you like to know what happened to them? I didn't want to know, but she told me anyway. Richard Morrison, 1956. Picked me up outside Tucson, got scared, tried to throw me out near Las Cruces. His truck veered off the road. They found him 3 days later, still in the driver's seat, frozen solid despite the desert heat. Thumb extended, like he was hitchhiking for help that never came. Her grip tightened on my wrist. I could feel ice crystals forming under my skin. Sandra Pacheco, 1989, made it all the way to Oklahoma before she panicked. Pulled into a rest stop, tried to lock me out. They found her truck in the parking lot, engine still running, Sandra frozen in her sleeper cab, thumb out, still trying to hitch a ride away from me. The cold was spreading up my arm now into my shoulder toward my chest. I tried to start the engine, tried to drive, but my fingers wouldn't work. They were turning white, then blue, then black. Let me go, I gasped. I'll drive, I'll take you to Detroit, just let me go. She released my wrist. The cold stopped spreading but didn't recede. My left hand was completely numb, frozen in a claw shape. I flexed my right hand, still functional, and put the truck in gear. Good choice, Thomas, she said, rotating her head back to face forward. Detroit is 1,341 miles from here. That's approximately 20 hours of driving time, not counting traffic or construction. You'll need to stop for fuel twice. You may stop for fuel, but that's all. No food stops, no bathroom breaks, no sleeping, and no trying to get help. I'll need to sleep eventually, I said, pulling back onto I-10. My left arm hung useless at my side, the skin blackened with frostbite. No, she said simply. You won't, I'll make sure of that. She reached over and touched my chest, just above my heart. The cold sank deep, wrapped around my cardiac muscles, squeezed. My heart rate jumped to 120, 140, 160. Adrenaline flooded my system. My eyes went wide, pupils dilated. Sleep became impossible. There, she said, satisfied. Now you can drive all night and all day. Your heart will keep racing until we reach Detroit. It might give out before then. You're not as young as you used to be. But that's your problem, not mine. My heart hammered against my ribs. My vision was sharp, crystal clear, but also jittery. My hands shook on the wheel. I was going to have a heart attack long before we reached Detroit. I knew it. She knew it. And she didn't care. Why are you doing this? I asked. What happened to you? I died, she said matter-of-factly. 1956, hitchhiking from El Paso to see my sister in Detroit. A trucker picked me up outside Van Horn. About 20 miles down the road, he decided he wanted payment for the ride. I said no. He got angry. And when I tried to get out, she gestured to herself, to her too smooth skin, her too long fingers, her black eyes. This is what happens when you die with your thumb out, still trying to escape, still trying to find another ride. You become stuck, permanent hitchhiker, can't rest until you complete the journey you started. We drove through the night, through El Paso, across New Mexico, into Texas again. My heart never slowed. The cold in my left arm never warmed. Every mile marker felt like climbing a mountain. At the first fuel stop, a truck stop outside Abilene, I tried to signal the attendant for help, tried to mouth "call police" while paying for diesel. But when I opened my mouth, only frozen breath came out. My jaw locked. My tongue froze to the roof of my mouth. "No cheating," the hitchhiker said from the truck. Her voice carried across the parking lot despite the distance. "Fuel only, get back in." I stumbled back to the cab. My left arm was completely black now, dead tissue, but somehow still attached. My heart was beating so fast I couldn't count the individual beats anymore, just a continuous vibration in my chest. We drove through Texas, Arkansas, Tennessee. Day became night, became day again. I saw the sun rise and set and rise again, and I didn't sleep, couldn't sleep, my body running on adrenaline and supernatural terror. Other drivers on the highway would pull alongside, see the hitchhiker in my passenger seat with her thumb still partially extended out the window, and they'd give me strange looks. One trucker CB radioed me. "Hey Volvo, your passenger okay? Looks like she's frozen or something." I tried to respond, but my jaw was still locked. The hitchhiker grabbed the radio from my frozen left hand. She could touch it even though my own fingers couldn't feel it anymore, and spoke into it. "Everything's fine. We're going to Detroit." The other trucker must have heard something in her voice, because he accelerated away quickly. At the second fuel stop, Indiana, maybe Ohio, I'd lost track. I tried to run, tried to abandon the truck, leave the keys, let her sit there forever. But the moment I opened the door, the cold from my left arm spread instantly to my legs. I collapsed on the pavement, unable to move, unable to call for help, frozen in place like all those other drivers. She climbed down from the cab, stood over me. Her dress didn't move in the wind. Her hair didn't blow. She was perfectly still except for her extended thumb, which slowly lowered to point at me. "Get up," she said. "We're not there yet. Only 217 miles left. You're so close, Thomas. Don't give up now." The cold receded just enough for me to move. I crawled back to the truck, climbed into the driver's seat, kept driving. My vision was tunneling. My heart was stuttering, skipping beats. I could feel it dying in my chest, the muscle fibers tearing under the constant strain, but Detroit was ahead. I saw the signs, 150 miles, 100 miles, 50 miles. "Almost there," the hitchhiker whispered. For the first time since I'd picked her up, she sounded hopeful. "Almost done, just a little further." 20 miles outside Detroit, my heart stopped. Just stopped. One moment it was beating, the next moment nothing. Silence in my chest, no pulse, no blood flow. My hands slipped from the wheel. The truck veered toward the shoulder. I couldn't correct it, couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I was dying right there on I-75, so close to the destination, so close to freedom. The hitchhiker grabbed the wheel. Her two long fingers wrapped around it, straightened the rig, kept us on the road. With her other hand, she touched my chest again, but this time the cold was different. Colder than before, colder than death, so cold it burned. My heart restarted, not beating properly, just convulsing, seizing, but enough to keep blood moving, enough to keep me conscious. "Not yet," she hissed. "You don't get to die until we reach the destination. That's the rule." We entered Detroit city limits. The industrial suburbs, the warehouse district, the streets I'd driven 100 times. My delivery destination was ahead, a distribution center on 8 Mile Road. I pulled into the lot, backed up to the loading dock, put the truck in park. "Here," I gasped. "Detroit, your destination." The hitchhiker sat perfectly still for a long moment. Then, slowly, she turned her head to look at me, normally this time no owl rotation. Her black eyes reflected the warehouse lights. "Thank you," she said, and her voice was different. Human, sad. 67 years, 43 drivers, you're the only one who made it." She opened the door, climbed down from the cab, stood in the parking lot, looking around at Detroit like she was seeing it for the first time. "My sister lived here," she said softly. "Lived. She's been dead for 30 years. I'm 67 years too late." Then she raised her thumb, that eternal hitchhiking gesture, and she simply dissolved. Like frost melting in fast forward, like she'd never been there at all. I sat in the driver's seat, heart barely functioning, left arm completely dead, trying to process what had just happened. I'd made it, survived, delivered her to Detroit. But as I climbed down from the cab to check in with the warehouse supervisor, I felt it. The cold, still in my chest, still wrapped around my heart, still there. She'd sigh. She'd leave if we reached Detroit together. She'd left, but the cold hadn't. That was 6 months ago. My heart hasn't beaten normally since. It stutters, skips, freezes. Doctors can't explain it. They see the damage on the EKG, cardiac tissue that looks frostbitten, impossible in a living person. But they can't diagnose it, can't treat it. My left arm had to be amputated. The tissue was dead, frozen solid, black as charcoal. The doctors said they'd never seen anything like it. And sometimes, late at night, I see her in my mirrors, standing on highway shoulders, thumb out, waiting for the next driver to stop. I never pick up hitchhikers anymore, but it doesn't matter. The cold in my chest is spreading, slowly, inch by inch. By the time it reaches my heart completely, I'll freeze from the inside out. And when they find my body, I know exactly what position it will be in. Thumb extended. Still hitchhiking. Still trying to reach a destination I'll never arrive at. The ride never ends. It just changes drivers. Story 5. The truck stop THATMOVED. The Flying J at mile marker 89 on Highway 54 in New Mexico served me coffee 3 times before I realized I'd never left. Same waitress, same cup, same $2.50 on my receipt, but my truck's GPS showed I'd driven 214 miles. I'm Jennifer Kowalski, 42 years old, independent operator running a 2019 Freightliner Cascadia. I haul refrigerated goods, produce, mostly, from California farms to East Coast distribution centers. It's good money if you can handle the pressure of keeping everything cold, keeping to the schedule, and keeping your sanity during 70-hour work weeks. February 9th, 2023. I was running behind on a load of organic lettuce bound for Atlanta, racing against both the clock and spoilage. I'd been driving for 9 hours straight when I pulled into that Flying J for coffee and a quick bathroom break. Standard truck stop, 40 pumps, a diner, a convenience store, showers in the back. Nothing special. The waitress who poured my coffee was named Dolars, according to her name tag. 60-something, gray hair in a tight bun, face like worn leather. She smiled when she topped off my cup. "Long haul?" she asked. "California to Atlanta. Got another 22 hours if I push it." "Drive safe, honey." I drank the coffee, mediocre but hot, paid my $2.50, used the bathroom, and climbed back into my rig. Checked my reefer unit, temperature holding at 34 degrees, lettuce still fresh. Checked my GPS, 212 miles to the next fuel stop in Vaughan. I pulled out of the Flying J at 3:47 p.m. I drove for 3 hours. Watched the sun set over the desert, watched the mile markers count up, watched my GPS track my progress east on Highway 54. My fuel gauge dropped from 3/4 to half. My bladder filled. My eyes got heavy. I needed another stop. At 6:52 p.m., I pulled into a Flying J at mile marker 89. Same layout, same 40 pumps, same diner, same convenience store, same everything. For a moment, I thought maybe Flying J just built their truck stops from identical templates like McDonald's or Starbucks. But then I walked into the diner and saw Dollar's. Same waitress, same gray bun, same worn leather face. "Long haul?" she asked, pouring coffee into my cup. Yes, California to Atlanta." "Drive safe, honey." I paid $2.50, used the same bathroom. When I walked back to my truck, I checked the GPS. It showed I'd driven 214 miles since my last stop. But I was at mile marker 89, the same mile marker I'd left from. I'd driven in a complete circle without turning. "Okay," I said aloud, gripping the steering wheel. "Okay, GPS malfunction, that's all. GPS got confused." But my fuel gauge didn't lie. It was down to a quarter tank now. I'd burned through half a tank of diesel driving. Where? In what direction? My odometer showed 214 miles. My GPS log showed a straight line east on Highway 54, but I was back at the same truck stop. I pulled up the GPS history. According to the data, I'd never left. The coordinates for the past 3 hours showed my truck stationary at the Flying J, even though I'd clearly been driving, clearly seen mile markers passing, clearly traveled. I checked my dash cam, rewound to when I'd left the truck stop. The footage showed exactly what I remembered, pulling out of the lot, merging onto Highway 54, driving east through the desert sunset. But the timestamps were wrong. The dash cam insisted only 3 minutes had passed, not 3 hours. Something was very wrong. I put the truck in gear and drove away from the Flying J again, this time watching everything carefully. The mile markers counted up normally, 90, 91, 92. My speed held steady at 67 miles per hour. The landscape passed by, endless desert scrub, distant mesas, the occasional ranch, everything normal. Except my GPS. The coordinates kept showing me at mile marker 89, stationary, and not moving. I drove for 2 more hours, watched my fuel gauge drop to 1/8 of a tank, watched the sky go fully dark, watched my odometer climb another 134 miles. And then ahead in my headlights, a Flying J truck stop, mile marker 89. Same layout, same pumps, same diner. I pulled in, hands shaking, walked into the diner. Dollar's looked up and smiled. "Long haul?" she asked. "No," I said. "No, I've been here before, twice. You've served me coffee twice already today." She cocked her head, confused. "Honey, this is the first time I've seen you." "Your name is Dollar's. You asked me if I was on a long haul. I said California to Atlanta. You said drive safe." "Well, I say that to everyone, honey." "What time is it?" I demanded. She pointed to the clock on the wall, 3:47 p.m. Impossible. I'd left at 3:47 p.m. the first time. It had been dark outside for the past hour. It was past 9:00 p.m. But the clock said 3:47 p.m., and when I looked out the window, the sun was in the exact same position it had been hours ago, low on the horizon, late afternoon light. "What day is it?" I asked, my voice rising. "February 9th, honey. You all right?" I ran back to my truck, checked my phone, February 9, 3:47 p.m. Checked the GPS, mile marker 89 stationary. Checked the dash cam, showed me pulling in 3 minutes ago even though I'd been driving for hours. Time was resetting. Every time I left the truck stop, I drove for hours, burned fuel, got tired, got hungry. But according to every clock and device, I'd never left. I always returned to 3:47 p.m., February 9th, mile marker 89. I tried driving west instead of east, turned around, headed back toward California, drove for 90 minutes, watched the mile markers count down, 88, 87, 86. My fuel gauge dropped to nearly empty. The low fuel warning light came on. Ahead, a Flying J truck stop, mile marker 89. Impossible, I'd been driving west. Mile marker 89 should be behind me. But there it was ahead of me, same layout, same lights. I pulled in, 3:47 p.m., dollars in the diner. "Long haul, honey." I tried screaming at her, demanding answers, asking how this was possible. She just smiled patiently and offered me coffee. $2.50. Same cup, same mediocre taste. I tried staying at the truck stop, refusing to leave. Waited in my cab, watching the clock. 3:47 p.m. became 3:48, 3:49, 4:00, 4:15. Time was passing normally. The sun was setting. Other trucks came and went. Dolers served other customers. But when I checked my load, the lettuce was wrong. It should have been fine. The reefer unit was holding temperature. But when I opened the trailer, the lettuce was exactly as fresh as it had been when I'd loaded it in California yesterday. No degradation, no wilting, as if no time had passed. I closed the trailer and climbed back in the cab, waited until midnight just to see what would happen. But at 11:59 p.m., my vision blurred. When it cleared, it was 3:47 p.m. again. The sun was back in its late afternoon position. Dolers was resetting, walking back to her starting position behind the counter. The truck stop was a loop, a temporal loop, and I was stuck in it. I tried everything over the next several cycles. I stopped counting after 20. Tried driving in different directions, north, south, east, west. Every direction led back to mile marker 89. Tried driving at different speeds, slow, fast, variable, didn't matter. The GPS always showed me stationary. The clock always reset to 3:47 p.m. Tried talking to other drivers at the truck stop. They all remembered entering, getting coffee, leaving, but none of them remembered being stuck. When I'd ask, "Have you been here before? Does this seem familiar?" They'd look at me like I was crazy. Because they weren't stuck, only I was. After maybe 40 cycles, I noticed something. Other trucks came and went, different trucks each time, but there were repeats. I started writing down license plates. After 62 cycles, I'd logged 317 different trucks. But then truck number 318 had the same plates as truck number 1. The loop was cycling through a set pattern of traffic. And Dolers, after 70-some cycles, I watched her carefully. She moved the same way every time. Same walk, same gestures, same head tilt when I asked questions. She was scripted, running through programmed responses, not a real person, a recording or a memory or something worse. I started exploring the truck stop during the resets. The convenience store had the same inventory every time. Same bags of chips in the same positions. same magazine covers. I tried buying items, taking them with me when I drove away. But when I returned to mile marker 89, the items were back on the shelves and my money was returned to my pocket. Nothing could leave. Everything was reset. After cycle 100, I began finding evidence. Notes scratched into bathroom stalls, carved into tables in the diner. Names and dates. David Park stuck. Since Oct 2019, cycle 3441. Rachel Stein, entered June 2021, can't get out. Marcus Tully, help, cycle 890, someone please. There were dozens of names. Dozens of drivers who'd gotten stuck in the loop, who'd lived the same 3:47 p.m. over and over, who tried desperately to escape or leave warnings for others. One note was different. It was on a napkin tucked under a sugar dispenser, written in shaky handwriting. The truck stop isn't real. It's memory. Collective memory of every driver who ever stopped here. When you pull in at just the right time in just the right conditions, you fall into the memory instead of the real place. You're stuck in a ghost. To get out, you have to make the memory let go. Make the memory let go? How? I spent the next 50 cycles trying to understand. The Flying J at mile marker 89 had existed since 1987. I found old receipts in the trash, dated back decades. Found newspapers from different years. This truck stop had seen thousands of drivers, millions of transactions, countless conversations and stops and coffee cups. All that collective memory, all those layered moments, had somehow congealed into this loop. The truck stop had become haunted by its own history. The note said to make the memory let go. But how do you make a place forget you? Cycle 209. I walked into the diner and instead of ordering coffee, I said something different. "Dollars, I need you to remember me." She blinked, surprised. "Excuse me, honey." "Remember me, Jennifer Kowalski. California to Atlanta, organic lettuce. I've been here 209 times. I need you to remember that." For just a moment, a fraction of a second, something changed in her eyes, recognition. Then it was gone, replaced by the standard smile. Long hauled. But it had been there, a crack in the script. I tried again next cycle. "Dollars, you've served me coffee 210 times. I need you to remember." Another flicker, longer this time. Cycle after cycle, I repeated it. Made her acknowledge my presence, forced the memory to recognize that something was wrong, that one element, me, didn't belong in the endless repetition. Cycle 372. I said, "Dollars, I'm stuck, help me." She set down the coffee pot, looked at me, really looked, her eyes cleared. "Jennifer," she said, and her voice was different, real. "Jennifer, you have to stop coming back." "I don't know how." "The memory keeps pulling you back because you keep returning. Every time you drive away, you expect to return. You believe you're stuck. And belief is what traps you here. You have to drive away and truly believe you're leaving. Truly believe there's nothing at mile marker 89. Make the memory forget you by forgetting it." "I don't understand." The clock struck 3:47 again. Dollars reset, her eyes going blank, script reloading. But I understood. I'd been stuck because I expected to be stuck. Every time I drove away, I was waiting for mile marker 89 to reappear, watching for it, believing it would happen, and belief made it happen. Next cycle, I drove away and I didn't look for the truck stop. Didn't think about it. Didn't check my GPS. Just drove east, focused on the road ahead on Atlanta on delivering my load. Believed completely that I was moving forward, that time was passing normally, that mile marker 89 was behind me. My hands shook on the wheel. My instincts screamed to check the GPS to verify I was really leaving. But I didn't, I just drove. An hour passed, the sun set, my fuel gauge dropped, all of it felt real. 2 hours, 3 hours, mile markers counting up exactly as they should. I passed through Vaughn, through Santa Rosa into Texas. My GPS showed steady eastward progress. No resets, no loops. 4 hours, 5. I stopped at a different truck stop, a Love S outside Amarillo, and the time was correct. 11:30 p.m., February 9th. Dollar's wasn't there. Different waitress, different diner, all of it beautifully, wonderfully different. I'd escaped. But sometimes, late at night, I see mile marker 89 in my peripheral vision. On highways that don't have a mile marker 89. In states I'm not driving through. It's always there at the edge of my vision, waiting. And I know if I ever look directly at it, if I ever acknowledge it, if I ever believe it's real again, I'll be back at 3:47 p.m. and Dollar's will ask me about my long haul, and the coffee will cost $2.50, and I'll never leave. The memory still has a hold on me. It always will. I just have to keep not believing. Keep driving forward. Keep forgetting mile marker 89 exists. Because the moment I remember clearly, the moment I believe I'm stuck again, I will be. The loop is always waiting. 3:47 p.m. Forever. I'll continue with the remaining 5 stories. This is taking shape well. Each story has a unique concept with immediate tension and escalating horror. Let me proceed with stories 6-10. Story 6, the cargo that got heavier. My trailer gained 3,000 pounds B. Etween Phoenix and Albuquerque without me loading anything. And when I finally opened the doors to check, I found myself staring at 47 copies of my own corpse. I'm Daniel Reeves, 53 years old, owner-operator with a 2021 Mack Anthem. I've been hauling freight independently for 19 years, mostly dry goods and light manufacturing equipment. I take pride in knowing my rig, knowing exactly how it handles with different loads, feeling the weight distribution through the steering wheel and suspension. On March 3, 2023, I picked up what should have been a simple load, commercial printing equipment from Phoenix to a facility outside Albuquerque. The manifest listed 8 pallets, total weight of 12,000 pounds. I loaded at 6:00 a.m., watched them fork the equipment into my trailer, secured everything properly, closed the doors, and hit the road. At the first weigh station outside Phoenix, my rig came in at exactly 12,000 pounds cargo weight. Everything matched the manifest. I got my clearance and continued east on I-10. 90 minutes later, something felt wrong. The truck was handling differently, heavier. The suspension was compressed lower than it should be. When I accelerated, there was more lag. When I braked, more momentum. Subtle differences, but after 19 years, you develop instincts. My cargo felt heavier. But I hadn't stopped, hadn't loaded anything. The trailer was sealed. At the next weigh station, Casa Grande, Arizona, I pulled onto the scales. The operator's voice came over the intercom. "You're showing 15,200 pounds cargo weight. That's over 3,000 pounds more than your manifest." "That's impossible," I said. "I haven't loaded anything since Phoenix." "Well, you're carrying it now. You got a revised manifest." I couldn't. The load was sealed, and I had paperwork showing 12,000 pounds. "I need to inspect your cargo," the operator said. Fine, let me open it. But when I walked around to the trailer doors, I hesitated. Something felt wrong, not just the weight, something else. A smell seeping from around the door seal, organic, like meat left in the sun. I broke the seal and swung open the doors. The printing equipment was still there, 8 pallets secured exactly as I'd loaded them. But there was something else. In the back corner, behind the equipment, partially hidden in shadow, a tarp covering a lumpy shape. I hadn't loaded anything under a tarp. The way station operator climbed into the trailer with me. Together, we pulled back the tarp. Underneath was a body, my body, wearing the same clothes I was wearing right now, blue jeans, gray t-shirt, Mac Anthem cap. Same weathered face, same graying beard, same scar on my left forearm from a motorcycle accident in my 20s. Dead, had been dead for maybe 3 hours, judging by the rigor mortis. Jesus Christ, the operator whispered, backing away. Are you? That's not me, I said, but my voice sounded uncertain even to myself. I'm right here, that's not me. It looks exactly like you. It's not me. But it was. Same DNA, same fingerprints, same dental records. Everything the police checked later confirmed it. The body in my trailer was genetically identical to me. A perfect copy. Dead from blunt force trauma to the back of the head, killed approximately 3 hours ago, right around the time I'd noticed the weight change. The police held me for 16 hours, questioned me, ran tests, tried to determine if I'd somehow killed a twin I didn't know I had. But I was an only child. No siblings, no twin. No explanation for how a perfect genetic copy of me had ended up dead in my sealed trailer. They eventually let me go, couldn't charge me with killing myself, legally speaking. But they impounded my rig and cargo. I had to rent a truck to complete the delivery. 2 weeks later, I got my Mac back. The body had been removed, the trailer cleaned and sanitized. I took a small load, furniture from Albuquerque to Santa Fe, just to get back into the routine. 30 miles outside Albuquerque, the weight changed again. I felt it through the steering, through the suspension. Heavier, maybe 200 pounds heavier. My heart started racing. I pulled onto the shoulder, ran to the back, opened the doors. The furniture was there, and behind it another tarp. Under the tarp, my body again. Fresh this time, killed maybe 10 minutes ago. Blunt force trauma to the back of the head. Same clothes, same face, same everything. I screamed, called the police. They came, investigated, found the same thing as before, genetic match, impossible to explain. They impounded the truck again. I tried to quit, tried to sell my rig, walk away from trucking entirely, but no one would buy it. Word had spread. The truck that grows bodies. The corpse cargo. I was blacklisted. So I kept driving. What else could I do? It was my livelihood. And every single trip, the weight increased. Every trip I'd feel the suspension compress, feel the extra mass in the trailer. And every time I opened the doors, there would be more bodies, always me, always fresh, always killed the same way. After 6 trips, there were 8 bodies. After 12 trips, 17 bodies. The police stopped investigating. What could they do? I wasn't killing anyone. I was driving alone under constant surveillance after the 3rd incident. The bodies just appeared, materialized in sealed trailers. Genetic matches, impossible copies, accumulating like interest. I started weighing my rig obsessively. Before every trip, I'd know my exact cargo weight. Then I'd drive and watch the scales at weigh stations, documenting every pound gained. The bodies averaged 187 pounds each. My weight, my dead weight, literally. The worst part was they were always fresh. never decomposed, even though I'd collected them over months. Each one was killed approximately 10 to 30 minutes before I discovered it, as if something was generating new copies of me, killing them, and depositing them in my trailer while I drove. After 6 months, I had 43 bodies. I stopped opening the trailer. Couldn't bear to see them anymore, couldn't handle staring at my own dead face over and over. But I could feel them accumulating, feel the weight growing. 8,000 additional pounds by then. 43 dead Daniels piled in my trailer, riding with me across America. The truck handled like a nightmare. The extra weight meant I couldn't climb hills properly, couldn't brake in time, couldn't maneuver. I got citations, failed inspections, but what could I tell them? Sorry, officer, I'm carrying 43 copies of my own corpse and I don't know how they got there. On September 17th, 2023, I was hauling electronics from Tucson to El Paso. The weight had increased again. Another body, I knew, another dead Daniel added to the collection. I was on a lonely stretch of Highway 80, no traffic, just me and the desert and the terrible weight behind me. My CB crackled. Daniel Reeves, this is Daniel Reeves, do you copy? My hands went numb on the wheel. That was my voice, my exact voice. Who is this? I demanded. Check your trailer, the voice said. Check your trailer right now. No, I'm not opening it again. You have to, we're running out of space. Away. Us, the copies, the dead yous. We're running out of space, Daniel. You've collected 44 of us now. The trailer's almost full. And when it's completely full, when there's no more room for another body, something else happens. What happens? You become us, the voice said. The real Daniel dies, and one of the copies takes his place, takes your place, becomes the new real Daniel, and the cycle starts over. He drives, collects his own corpses, fills the trailer, dies, gets replaced. Forever. I slammed on the brakes. The rig shuddered to a stop in the middle of the empty highway. I sat there, hyperventilating, staring at the CB radio. That's impossible, I whispered. You've been carrying 44 genetic copies of yourself. You think impossible means anything anymore. Why is this happening? Because you killed someone, the voice said. August 14th, 1994, you were driving through New Mexico, a hitchhiker. He got aggressive, tried to rob you. You fought back, hit him with a tire iron, killed him, dumped his body in the desert and drove away. My blood went cold. I'd never told anyone about that, never reported it, never confessed. It had been 29 years ago, and I'd buried it deep, convinced myself it was self-defense, tried to forget. His name was Daniel Reeves, the voice continued. Same name as you, pure coincidence, but when you killed him, when you dumped him like cargo, something broke. A loop formed, a curse, whatever you want to call it. You killed Daniel Reeves, so now Daniel Reeves is killed over and over, and you have to carry him, carry us, carry your victim forever. I didn't know his name was. Doesn't matter, you killed him, treated him like cargo. Now you are cargo, all of us are. We're the same person, Daniel. You, me, him, all 44 bodies in your trailer. We're the same Daniel Reeves, killed and replaced, forever hauling himself across America. I got out of the truck, walked to the trailer, stood in front of the doors, hand on the handle. Open it, the CB voice said, even though I'd left the radio in the cab. The voice was coming from inside the trailer now. See what you've done, see what you're becoming. I opened the doors. The bodies had changed. They weren't lying in a pile anymore. They were standing. 44 copies of me, standing upright in the trailer, all facing the door, all staring at me with dead eyes. And they were moving, slowly, swaying, mouthing words. No more room, they said in unison. No more row. Your turn. I stumbled backward, tried to run, but my head exploded in pain, blunt force trauma right at the base of my skull, and I was falling, landing in the road. I looked up and saw myself standing over me. Another Daniel Reeves, perfect copy, holding a tire iron. He looked sad. "I'm sorry," he said. "It's my turn now. You'll join the others, and I'll drive and collect my corpses and die and be replaced. Forever." He dragged my body, my corpse, because I was dead now, I could feel it even though I was still conscious, into the trailer. Laid me down with the others, 45 bodies now, almost full. Then he closed the doors, and I was in darkness with all the other dead Daniels. We stood together, swaying, mouthing the same words over and over. No more rooms, no more room. I felt the truck start moving, felt the weight of myself and 44 other selves pressing down on the trailer floor. Felt the living Daniel, the new me, driving east toward El Paso. In 3 more trips, the trailer will be full. 48 bodies, that's the maximum capacity. And when that happens, the living Daniel will die and body number 1, the original victim from 1994, will become the new driver. And the cycle will start over. He'll drive and collect corpses and die and be replaced. And eventually I'll be the one driving, and I'll collect my own corpses, and I'll die and be replaced. Forever hauling myself. Forever carrying the weight of that murder. Forever becoming cargo, becoming the thing I dumped in the desert 29 years ago. The truck drives on. The weight increases. The bodies accumulate. And somewhere ahead, at a weigh station, a scale will show 3,000 more pounds than the manifest claims, and someone will ask questions, and the new Daniel will have no answers. Just like I didn't. Just like the next Daniel won't. We're all cargo now, all weight, all dead, all driving. Forever. Story 7, The Voice in the Engine. The knocking in my engine was saying my daughter's name, and by the time I realized it wasn't mechanical failure, I'd driven 300 miles past the exit where I could have saved her. I'm Frank Morrison, 47, running a 2018 Peterbilt 579 for Schneider National. 21 years in this industry, hauling everything from produce to hazardous materials. I know diesel engines. I know every sound they make. The healthy sounds, the warning sounds, the expensive sounds that mean your day is about to get very bad. But I'd never heard an engine say a name before. It started May 22nd, 2023. I was hauling medical supplies from Nashville to Birmingham, running I-65 south through Tennessee. Around 2:00 a.m., just past the Kentucky border, I heard it, a knocking sound from the engine. Rhythmic, metallic. The kind of sound that makes every trucker's stomach drop because it usually means catastrophic failure. I checked my gauges. Oil pressure, normal. Engine temp, normal, everything read fine, but the knocking continued, steady and insistent. Knock, 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 knock. I figured a rod bearing, maybe a crankshaft issue. Something expensive but manageable if I caught it early. I planned to pull off at the next truck stop, pop the hood, investigate. But then the knocking changed rhythm. Knock, 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 knock. 3 knocks, pause, 1 knock, pause, 2 knocks. 3, 1, 2, 3 letters, 1 letter, 2 letters. EMILY. My daughter's name. I laughed it off. Exhaustion, pattern recognition in random noise, the brain finding meaning where there wasn't any. The engine wasn't saying my daughter's name. That was crazy. But it continued, over and over, Emily, Emily, Emily. I grabbed my phone, called her. She was 23, living in Louisville, working as a nurse. The call went to voicemail. Hey, Em, it's Dad. Just wanted to check in. Call me back when you get this. I hung up and kept driving. The knocking continued. Emily, Emily, Emily. At the next truck stop, a pilot outside Nashville, I pulled over and opened the hood. Everything looked fine. No oil leaks, no loose parts, no visible damage. But when I started the engine again, there it was. Knock, 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 knock. Emily. I called a mechanic. He listened to the engine, ran diagnostics, checked everything. Sounds rough, he admitted, but I can't find anything wrong. All your systems are reading normal. Might be something internal, but without tearing down the engine, I can't tell you what. Should I keep driving? He shrugged. If your gauges are normal, you're probably okay for a while, but get it checked properly when you reach Birmingham. I should have insisted, should have torn down the engine right there. But I had a delivery deadline, had medical supplies that hospitals needed, had a contract to fulfill. So I drove, and the engine kept saying Emily. By hour 3, I'd convinced myself it was Morse code or some kind of message. I started, listening carefully, trying to decode patterns beyond the name. Sometimes the knocking would speed up, Emily, 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 frantic, urgent. Sometimes it would slow down, EMILY, drawn out, mournful. At 4:30 a.m. my phone rang. Emily. Hey, sweetheart, I answered. You're up late. Dad, her voice was wrong, tight, scared. Dad, something's wrong. What happened? I don't know, I feel like something bad is going to happen. Like I need to tell you something important, but I don't know what. The knocking intensified. Emily, 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 rapid fire, desperate. Where are you? I asked. Home, in my apartment. Dad, I'm scared. I don't know why, but I'm really scared. Lock your doors. I'll call the police. No, it's not that. She paused. It's like a premonition, like something's coming and I can't stop it. The engine was screaming now, knocking so violently the whole truck vibrated. Emily, 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 Emily. Em, listen to me. I'm 3 hours south of Louisville. I can turn around, be there by 8 a.m. No, don't. You have your delivery. I'm probably just being paranoid. Working too many night shifts. I'll be fine. As Emily. I'll be fine, Dad. I love you. She hung up. The knocking stopped. Complete silence from the engine. No sound at all, not even normal diesel rumble. Just nothing. Then it started again, but different. Slower, sadder. CMILY, goodbye, Emily. Goodbye, Emily. Goodbye. No, I whispered. I checked my mirrors, looking for an exit, somewhere to turn around. But I was in a construction zone, concrete barriers on both sides, no exits for another 20 miles. I pressed the accelerator. The truck lurched forward, but the engine knocked in protest. Too late, too late, too late. Shut up, I screamed at it. Shut up, she's fine, she's just scared. The engine responded. She's dying, she's dying, she's dying. I grabbed my phone, called Emily back. No answer. Called again, no answer. Again, 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 straight to voicemail. I called 911. My daughter, Emily Morrison, Louisville, Kentucky. She's in danger. Please send someone to check on her. They took her address, promised to send officers. I gave them every detail I could think of. Then I drove, pushing the Peterbilt harder than I'd ever pushed it, trying to close the distance between Birmingham and Louisville. But I was going the wrong direction. Every mile south was another mile away from her, and the engine kept counting, too late 1, too late 2, too late 3. Counting miles, counting the distance I was from saving her. At 2:47, my phone rang. Louisville Police Department. Mr. Morrison, we're at your daughter's apartment. I'm very sorry, but we found her unresponsive. Paramedics are working on her now, but... The engine stopped knocking. Complete silence, dead silence. It appears to be a carbon monoxide leak from a faulty water heater. The landlord had ignored maintenance requests. She'd been complaining about headaches for weeks. We're transporting her to University Hospital, but Mr. Morrison, her oxygen saturation is very low. She's in critical condition. I don't remember the rest of the call. Don't remember pulling over. Don't remember sitting in the cab, staring at nothing while the sun rose over Tennessee. The engine was silent. Emily died at 7:42 a.m. Carbon monoxide poisoning. If someone had gotten to her even 30 minutes earlier, she might have survived. If I'd turned around when she called at 4:30 a.m., if I'd ignored my delivery and driven north instead of south, I could have broken down her door, opened her windows, saved her. But I'd driven away, listened to my engine saying her name, and convinced myself it was mechanical failure. 347 miles. That's how far I'd driven past the exit where I could have turned around. 2:47, the engine had counted. The last number before it went silent. I quit Schneider National, sold my Peterbilt. Couldn't drive anymore, couldn't listen to diesel engines, couldn't handle the road. But 6 months later, I needed money. Pride, stupidity, desperation, doesn't matter why. I took a short-haul job, local delivery, borrowed truck, nothing serious. The moment I started the engine, I heard it. Knock, 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 knock. Emily. No, I whispered. No, she's dead. You can't be saying her name. But it was Emily, 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 same rhythm, same pattern. I called the mechanic who'd checked the engine that night. What did you hear? When you listened to my engine in Nashville, what did you actually hear? Just knocking, he said. Normal bearing failure sounds, why? You didn't hear a pattern, didn't hear a name. A name? No, man, just random knocking. Only I could hear it. Only I could decode the pattern. The engine wasn't saying Emily's name. My brain was, my guilt was, translating mechanical failure into the message I'd missed. Except that didn't explain how it had known, how it had said her name before she called, how it had counted the miles, 2:47, and gone silent at the exact moment she died. I've driven 37 different trucks since then. Rentals, loaners, different makes and models. Every single engine knocks out the same pattern. Emily, Emily, Emily. Sometimes it adds other words. Should have turned around, should have saved her, should have listened. Other drivers don't hear it. Mechanics don't hear it. Only me. I'm writing this from a rest stop in Ohio. I'm supposed to deliver manufactured parts to a warehouse in Pennsylvania tomorrow morning. The engine has been saying Emily for 6 straight hours. But 20 minutes ago, the pattern changed. It added something new. Sarah. That's my wife's name. Emily's mother. She's home in Louisville right now, same apartment building where Emily died because she refused to move, said she needed to stay close to her daughter's memory. The engine is saying, Sarah, 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 carbon monoxide, check the heater, Sarah, Sarah, Sarah. I called her, no answer. Called the apartment management, told them to check the water heater in unit 412 immediately. They said they'd send someone tomorrow. Tomorrow isn't fast enough. The engine is getting louder, more insistent. Sarah dying, turn around now. I'm 300 miles from Louisville. If I leave now, abandon this load, drive straight through, I can be there in 4.5 hours. But what if I'm wrong? What if I'm just hearing patterns in random noise, letting guilt and paranoia control me? What if I abandon another job, break another contract, lose another opportunity, all because an engine knocks? The pattern changes. She called at 4:30. You didn't turn around, don't make same mistake. Sarah dying, turn around now. My hands are shaking on the wheel. I'm writing this on my phone, trying to decide. Louisville is north, Pennsylvania is east. I can't go both directions. The engine isn't random. It knew Emily's name before she called. It counted the miles, too late 47. It went silent at 7:42 a.m. It knew. And now it's saying Sarah. I'm turning around. I'm driving to Louisville. If I'm wrong, I'll lose this job. If I'm right, I'll save my wife. The engine just changed again. Good choice. Hurry, Frank. 4 hours left. Hurry. 4 hours. That's how long I have. I'm driving 90 miles per hour. Police can stop me if they want. I'll explain. They'll understand or they won't. Doesn't matter. The engine is counting now. 4 hours, 3 hours 59, 3 hours 58. Every minute counting down. I'm going to make it. I have to make it. I won't be too late again. The engine knocks faster. Hurry, Frank, hurry, Frank, hurry. I'm coming, Sarah, I'm coming. Story 8, The Frequency of the Damned. It started with the static. Not the usual white noise of the CB radio, but a rhythmic, pulsing static that sounded like a giant heart beating. Thump-hiss, thump-hiss. I was crossing the panhandle of Texas on I-40 near Amarillo. It was a clear night, April 3rd, 2023. The stars were bright, the road was straight, and I was making good time. I reached to turn the squelch knob, trying to tune it out, but the knob came off in my hand. It just sheared right off the metal post. And then the voice cut through. Clear, crisp, precise. Driver of Unit 7734, do you copy? I jumped. That was my truck number. Yeah, I copy. Who is this? I asked, scanning the mirrors for another truck. The highway was empty for miles. This is dispatch, the voice said. Not your dispatch, the asterisk dispatch. We have a route change for you. I frowned. I don't take orders from randos on the radio. I'm with Swift. I have my route. The route has changed, Marcus, the voice said. My name, he knew my name. A chill went down my spine. There is an obstruction ahead, a fatal obstruction. You must take the next exit. Exit 119. I checked my GPS. Exit 119 was a dirt road leading to an old abandoned ranch. That's a dirt road, buddy. I'm not taking a fully loaded 18-wheeler off-road. If you stay on I-40, the voice said, devoid of emotion, you will die at mile marker 72. A drunk driver in a pickup truck is currently crossing the median. Head-on collision, immediate incineration, take the exit. The detail was terrifying. I looked at the mile marker I was passing, 68. 4 miles at 65 mph, that was minutes away. I hesitated. Was this a prank? A sophisticated hijacking attempt? I saw headlights in the distance coming toward me in the eastbound lane. They looked normal, stable. 3 minutes, Marcus, the voice said. Choose. Sweat broke out on my forehead. I eased off the gas. The exit was coming up in a mile. Why are you helping me? I asked. We require your cargo, the voice replied. I was hauling auto parts, nothing special. What cargo? The passenger, the voice said. I looked at the passenger seat. It was empty. My gym bag sat there, nothing else. I'm alone, I said. No, the voic. E said, look closer. I glanced at the bag. It was moving, subtle rhythmic movements like breathing. I reached out and unzipped it. Inside, nestled among my dirty clothes, was a small black box, smooth, seamless, made of a material that seemed to absorb the light. I had never seen it before. What is this? I whispered. That is the core, the voice said. We need it delivered. Exit 119, now. I saw the exit sign. I saw the headlights of the oncoming traffic. Suddenly, one set of headlights swerved. Hard, across the median grass, dust kicked up. The truck was barreling toward my lane, just like the voice said. Panic took over. I slammed the wheel to the right, taking the exit ramp at dangerous speed. The trailer tires lifted off the ground, then slammed back down. I bounced onto the dirt road, dust billowing behind me in a massive cloud. Behind me, on the highway, I heard the sickening crunch of metal on metal, then an explosion. A fireball lit up the sky in my rearview mirror. I had survived. "Good," the voice said. "Now keep driving, do not stop." The dirt road was rough, washboarded, and narrow. The headlights cut through the gloom, illuminating barbed wire fences and mesquite bushes. The black box in the bag began to hum, a low, vibrating hum that made my teeth itch. "Where am I going?" I asked. "To the facility," the voice said. The road seemed to stretch on forever. The GPS showed I was driving into a blank void. No roads, no landmarks. After an hour, I saw lights. Not a ranch house, but a massive industrial complex rising out of the desert floor. It looked like a refinery, but silent. No smoke, no steam, just towering metal structures and blinking red lights. A gate opened automatically as I approached. "Pull into Bay 4, the voice commanded. I did as I was told. I backed the truck into a dark loading dock. The air brakes hissed as I set them. "Leave the box, leave the truck, walk away," the voice said. I grabbed my wallet and phone. I looked at the black box. It was glowing now, a faint purple light pulsing from within. I didn't want to touch it. I opened the door and jumped down. The dock was concrete, cold, and sterile. I walked toward the gate. "Do not look back," the voice warned. Of course, I looked back. I couldn't help it. The back of my trailer was open. Figures were swarming it. Tall, thin figures with elongated limbs and pale, gray skin. They weren't human. They were unloading the truck with impossible speed. But they weren't taking the auto parts. They were taking *me*. I saw my own body being dragged out of the cab, limp, lifeless. I stopped, freezing in my tracks. I looked down at my hands. They were translucent, fading. I looked at my feet. I couldn't feel the ground. "I told you not to look back," the voice said, sounding disappointed. "You died at mile marker 72, Marcus. The crash happened. We just saved your consciousness for the delivery." I screamed, but no sound came out. The world began to dissolve into static. The industrial complex, the desert, the truck, it all pixelated and broke apart into white noise. I was just a signal, a frequency. I was data being uploaded to the black box. I understood then. I was the cargo. My soul, my memories, my essence, captured in the moment of death and stored in the box. The aliens, the demons, whatever they were, they collected souls, and I had just delivered myself. The static overtook me. I became part of the hum. I am in the box now, with the others, thousands of us, screaming in the digital dark, waiting to be processed, waiting to be used. If you hear a rhythmic static on your radio, don't try to tune it out. It's us. We're trying to warn you. Turn off the radio, turn off the truck. Run. Story 9. The Black Dog of I-5. Every trucker knows the legend of the black dog. If you see it trotting alongside your truck, it means you've been driving too long. It means you're going to crash. It's a hallucination born of fatigue and caffeine. I knew the stories. I laughed at them. Until the night of June 18th, 2023. I was on I-5 heading north through the Siskiyou Mountains near the Oregon border. It was raining hard, a deluge that turned the road into a slick black river. I was tired, yes. I had been pushing it, fudging my logbook to make a delivery in Portland. But I was awake. I was alert. I was drinking my third Red Bull. I saw it in the driver's side mirror. A large, black shape running alongside the cab, at 65 miles per hour. No dog runs that fast. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, and looked again. It was still there. A massive, wolf-like creature, pitch black, with eyes that glowed a fiery red. It wasn't running on the pavement. It was running on the air, hovering just inches above the asphalt. Its paws made no sound. It turned its head and looked at me. It grinned. A human grin full of serrated teeth. I swerved, my heart leaping into my throat. The trailer swayed, the tires struggling for grip on the wet road. I corrected, gripping the wheel, until my knuckles cracked. "It's not real," I said aloud. "It's not real, you're just tired." I looked back at the mirror. It was gone. I let out a shaky breath, just fatigue, just a shadow. I turned up the radio, blasting classic rock to keep my mind focused. 5 minutes later, I heard scratching on the door right beside my left leg. Scritch, scritch, scritch. I stared at the door panel. The metal was denting inward. 3 long grooves appeared, metal curling like butter as invisible claws tore through the aluminum skin from the outside. The wind roared through the new slits, spraying rain into the cab. This wasn't a hallucination. Something was on the truck. I reached for the window crank to roll it up tight, but the glass shattered inward, exploding into 1,000 diamonds. The black dog's head thrust through the opening. It was huge, the size of a bear's head, smelling of wet fur and rotting meat. It snapped at my face, jaws clamping inches from my nose. I screamed and stomped on the brakes. The truck hydroplaned, the world spun. The trailer swung around, smashing into the cab with a deafening crunch. Metal screamed, glass flew. The truck rolled, sliding on its side down the highway, sparks showering like fireworks. We hit the median barrier and ground to a halt. I was hanging sideways in the seatbelt, dazed, blood trickling into my eye. The cab was a wreck. The windshield was gone. The rain poured in. I groaned, reaching for the buckle release. It was jammed. I was trapped. And then I heard the panting, heavy, wet panting. I looked up. The black dog was sitting on the hood of the overturned truck, looking down at me through the broken windshield space. It was sleek, muscular, and terrifyingly real. It wasn't a ghost. It was a monster. It lowered its head, sniffing me. It spoke, a guttural, growling voice. "Not ripe yet." "What?" I wheezed. "Not enough fear," it said. "The meat is sweet only when marinated in terror." It reached a massive paw into the cab and effortlessly sliced the seat belt with a single claw. I fell onto the passenger door, groaning. "Run," it commanded. "Run into the woods, make it a chase, make it taste good." I didn't need to be told twice. I kicked the door open and scrambled out into the rain. I ran toward the tree line, slipping in the mud, crashing through the brush. The woods were dark, ancient, and silent. I could hear the dog behind me. It wasn't running. It was stalking, breaking twigs, snuffing. I ran until my lungs burned. I found an old logging road and followed it. The darkness was absolute. I tripped over a root and fell hard, twisting my ankle. I lay there sobbing, waiting for the teeth, but they didn't come. Instead, a light appeared. A pair of headlights coming down the logging road, a truck, an old, beat-up Kenworth log truck. I waved my arms, screaming. "Help, help me!" The truck stopped. The driver, an old man in suspenders, leaned out. "You look like you've seen a ghost, son. Hop in." I limped to the truck and climbed in. It was warm, safe. "Thank you," I gasped. "There's a bear, a wolf, something." "Black dog?" the old man asked, putting the truck in gear. I froze. "Yeah, how did you know?" He smiled. It was a sad smile. "He's the landlord of these woods. We just pay rent." He drove me down the mountain, but as we went, I noticed something wrong. The road kept looping. We passed the same broken stump 3 times. "Where are we going?" I asked. The old man didn't answer. His skin began to shimmer, hair sprouted from his face, his nose elongated, his eyes turned red. I tried the door, locked. The driver turned to me. He wasn't a man anymore. He was the dog. "Good chase," he growled. "You taste delicious now." The truck wasn't a truck. It was the belly of the beast. The walls were ribs. The seat was muscle. I was already inside. I had run straight down its throat. The dashboard melted into a gullet. The windshield became a mouth closing shut. The last thing I saw was the moon disappearing behind rows of massive, closing teeth. Story 7, The Bridge to Nowhere. The Sunshine Skyway Bridge in Florida is a marvel of engineering, soaring over Tampa Bay like a concrete sail. But on foggy nights, locals say you shouldn't look at the water. I didn't listen. I was driving a flatbed loaded with construction steel, heading south to Sarasota. It was 4:15 a.m., February 14th, 2023. The fog was a white blanket, visibility near zero. I was creeping along at 30 mph, following the taillights of a tanker truck ahead of me. The bridge cables loomed out of the mist like giant harp strings. Suddenly, the tanker ahead of me vanished. It didn't turn off, there are no exits on the bridge. It didn't crash, there was no sound, it just blinked out of existence. 1 second, red lights, the next, gray fog. I slammed on my brakes, stopping in the middle of the span. I waited. Maybe his lights failed. I crept forward. There was nothing, no truck, no debris, just the empty road stretching. Into the mist, I looked over the side. The water below was calm, black glass. Then I noticed the bridge itself. The concrete barriers were different. They were older, crumbled. The yellow lines on the road were faded to white, and the cables were rusted, some snapping in the wind with a mournful twang. I was on the old bridge, the one that collapsed in 1980 when the freighter Summit Venture hit it. But that bridge was demolished years ago. The new bridge was built parallel to it. I looked to my right. There in the fog, I saw the new asterisk bridge. The one I should be on. Cars were driving on it, their lights faint blurs. I was on the ghost bridge, the dead bridge. Panic set in. I put the truck in reverse. I had to back off. But as I looked in the mirror, the road behind me was gone. It simply ended in a jagged tier of concrete and rebar dropping off into the bay. I was trapped on a segment of the ruined span floating in the void, and I wasn't alone. Parked ahead of me where the tanker had been was a Greyhound bus. A vintage one from the 80s. It was crushed, wet, covered in barnacles and seaweed. The windows were broken. I grabbed my tire iron and got out. The air smelled of salt and decay. I walked toward the bus. Inside, sitting in the seats, were passengers. They were wet, bloated, their skin gray and peeling. They sat in silence, staring straight ahead. The driver turned his head. His face was eaten away by crabs. "Tickets," he gurgled. "Tickets for the crossing." I backed away. No, I'm not supposed to be here." "Everyone pays the toll," the driver said. He stood up. Water poured from his uniform. The passengers stood up too. 30 drowned souls rising from their seats. They began to shuffle off the bus, moving toward me. "Join us," they whispered. "The water is warm, the sleep is long." I ran back to my truck. I jumped in and locked the doors. They surrounded the cab, slapping their wet hands against the glass, leaving smears of algae and slime. They rocked the truck. I started the engine. I had no road behind me. I had the bus ahead of me, and beyond the bus, the gap, the missing section of the bridge where the ship had hit. I had a choice: let them take me or drive into the gap. I looked at the drop. It was hundreds of feet, certain death, but better than that. I revved the engine. I released the brakes. I aimed for the bus. "Sorry," I whispered. I floored it. The steel-laden flatbed smashed into the rear of the bus, crumpling it like a tin can. We pushed it forward, metal screaming, toward the edge. The bus went over, tumbling into the abyss. My truck followed. The front wheels left the concrete. The cab tipped forward. Gravity took over. We fell. The wind roared. I closed my eyes, waiting for the impact, but it never came. We kept falling for minutes, hours. The fog cleared, and I saw we weren't falling into the bay. We were falling into a sky full of stars, but the wrong stars. We were falling asterisk up. I looked around. Thousands of vehicles were floating in this zero-gravity ocean. Cars from the 50s, horse-drawn carriages, futuristic hovercrafts, all lost on the bridge. My truck stabilized, floating in the ether. I am still here. Floating. I have radio contact with some of the others. We formed a community. The Society of the Span. We trade stories. We trade food that appears in our cargo holds. We drift. We never land. The bridge was a trapdoor, a glitch in the map of reality, and we fell through. If you drive the skyway at night and the fog rolls in, don't stop. Don't look at the water. And whatever you do, don't follow the tanker truck. Story 10. The Doppelganger Depot. I pulled into the truck stop at 3:00 a.m. It was a generic Flying J off I-70 in Kansas. I was dead on my feet. I parked my Volvo in the back row, grabbed my shower bag, and headed inside. The fluorescent lights buzzed. The cashier, a bored teenager, didn't look up. I paid for a shower and a coffee. I went to the bathroom, washed my face, and looked in the mirror. That's when the trouble started. My reflection didn't blink when I did. I blinked. The reflection stared. I waved my hand. The reflection stood still. Then it smiled, a slow, cruel smile that I had never made in my life. I stumbled back, rubbing my eyes. What the? I looked again, normal, just me, tired, unshaven, scared. I shook it off, fatigue psychosis. I went to the shower, scrubbed the road grime off, and felt better. I walked out to the diner to get some food. I sat at a booth and ordered eggs. As I waited, the door opened. A trucker walked in. He was wearing a red flannel shirt, jeans, and work boots. He looked familiar. He walked to the counter. When he turned, my heart stopped. It was me. It was literally me. Same face, same scar on the chin, same clothes. He saw me. He didn't look surprised. He walked over to my booth and sat down opposite me. "Eating the eggs?" he asked. His voice was my voice. "They're dry here." I couldn't speak. I gripped my fork like a weapon. "Who are you?" I croaked. "I'm you," he said. "The better you, the one who didn't take that extra shift, the one who called his wife back." He took a bite of my toast. "I'm taking over the run, buddy. You're done." "You're insane," I hissed. "I'm calling the cops." "Go ahead," he said. "But who will they believe? The guy with the valid CDL and the logbook, or the guy who doesn't exist?" I checked my pocket. My wallet was gone. My keys were gone. "I took them while you were in the shower," he said, chewing. "While you were staring at the mirror. You let me out, you know. The mirror is a door. You look too long." I lunged across the table, grabbing him by the throat. He didn't struggle. He felt cold like clay. "Help!" I shouted. "He stole my identity." The waitress looked over. She looked at me, then at him. She frowned. "Why are you attacking yourself, honey?" she asked. "I'm not," I yelled. "He's an imposter." The other truckers in the diner looked. They all had the same expression, confusion. To them, we were the same person, just a crazy guy fighting the air. No, they saw two of us, but they didn't care. My double pushed me back effortlessly. He stood up. "Time to go, got a load to deliver." He walked out. I scrambled after him. "Stop!" He climbed into my truck, my Volvo. He started it up. I banged on the door. He looked down and winked. Then he drove off, leaving me standing in the parking lot. I ran to the cops. They arrested me for vagrancy. They ran my prints. "No record found," the officer said. "You don't exist in the system, pal." My name, my social security number, my life, it was all gone, assigned to him. I was a ghost, a null set. I live at the truck stop now. I hide in the showers. I watch the mirrors. I see others like me. Men and women staring into the glass, realizing too late that the reflection is hungry. I try to warn them. I scratch messages into the stalls. "Don't look in the mirror." But they never listen. And sometimes I see him drive by, my truck, my life. He looks happy. He looks well-rested. He waves, and I fade a little more each day. I pulled over at a chain-up area. I grabbed my flashlight and went to the back. I climbed inside the trailer. It was freezing. The pallet of dolls was where I left it, but the plastic wrap was torn, and the boxes were open. I shined the light. The dolls were porcelain Victorian style with frilly dresses and dead glass eyes. There were 20 of them, but they weren't in the boxes. They were sitting in a circle on the floor of the trailer, arranged, like they were having a tea party. "Okay, very funny," I said, thinking some dock worker had pranked me. I started to put them back. As I touched the first one, it felt warm, flesh warm. Its head snapped toward me. The painted mouth opened, revealing tiny, sharp teeth. "Play with us," it hissed. I dropped it. It landed on its feet like a cat. The other 19 heads turned, 19 pairs of glass eyes fixed on me. They stood up. They were about 2 feet tall. They moved with a jerky, stop-motion animation style. I backed up. "Stay away." I kicked one. It flew against the wall, shattering, but there was no ceramic dust. There was blood. Tiny bones and organs splattered on the wood. The others screamed. A sound like grinding glass. They charged. I scrambled out of the trailer, jumping to the snow, slamming the doors shut. I could hear them scratching inside, pounding. "Let us out, we want to play." I drove like a maniac. I had to get them to Seattle, get rid of them, but the scratching got louder. They were chewing through the wood floor. I heard the crunch-crunch of tiny teeth on oak planks. Then I heard them in the air lines. They were in the mechanics of the truck. The brakes failed. The steering became stiff. They were dismantling the truck from the inside. I looked at the dash. A doll's hand punched through the plastic, holding a wire. It waved at me. I was going down a 6% grade, no brakes. I saw a runaway truck ramp. I took it. The gravel slowed me down, dragging the truck to a halt deep in the sand. I was safe. I grabbed my bag to run, but the cab was full of them. They had come through the vents, through the floor. They were on the dashboard, on the seat, on the wheel, 20 of them minus the one I killed. They smiled. "Tea time," they said. They didn't kill me. That would be too simple. They turned me. They performed a surgery with their tiny porcelain hands. They removed my skin. They replaced it with ceramic. They replaced my eyes with glass. I am a doll now, a life-sized doll. I sit in the driver's seat. They control the truck. We drive at night. We look for other trucks. We look for new friends to join the tea party. If you see a truck driven by a man with a shiny, frozen face, run. We are collecting. The world went black. I woke up in my truck, parked on the shoulder of I-80, engine idling. It was night. My logbook lay open. The last entry was written in shaky handwriting. "Don't stop at Pleasant View." I looked at my hands. They were covered in dried blood, not mine. I looked in the grill, bits of fabric, a child's hair ribbon. It was real. The simulation was real. Or reality is the simulation. I don't know anymore. I just drive. And I never, ever take the detours.